Since we're now only hours away from Christmas, and just past the still point of the winter solstice, it feels like the right moment for a short reflection on the energetic and physiological meaning behind Christianity. Now, this isn't a theological debate or a historical lecture, but a simple exploration of how the Christian story mirrors processes within the human body. How myth, biology, and lived experience speaks to one another when we stop treating them as separate worlds. The word Christ has long been treated like a surname, but in the older mystical traditions, it is seen as an initiatory title, a state of attainment rather than an inherited label. Etymologically, Christos means the anointed one and comes from the Greek word to anoint, which itself stems from even older roots of consecration and saturation with sacred oil. However, when we look at this through a physiological and esoteric lens, the symbolism becomes startlingly literal. This anointing is actually the body's own sanctification through its inner oils, hormones, and subtle secretions. The living chrism that nourishes our cells and organs and awakens dormant, subtle capabilities. And this is far from being an exclusive club. It is a lifestyle, a discipline, a way of tending the inner fire. As Christ himself says, "You will do the works I do, and greater works than these." This is a clear invitation, as any, to understand this as a human potential, not a historical title. When we speak of Christification, we are speaking of a process, a maturation of energy and consciousness that unfolds through the body as well as through the mind or spirit. Many early Christian mystics hinted at this, though often in veiled language. The body becomes the temple, not just as a spiritual metaphor, but as a physical mechanism. The glands, the nervous system, the lymphatic system, the cerebrospinal fluid all participate in this inner anointing. It is the refinement and circulation of the life force until it becomes electrified, luminous, intelligent, and self-directing. This is why the title Christos is bestowed upon those who have undergone an inner initiation, a transformation that was both biological and spiritual. And this process is not unique to Christianity. When we compare it with Eastern traditions, the parallels are unmistakable. The Kundalini awakening in the yogic systems describes the ascent of a latent energy from the base of the spine to the crown, purifying and reorganizing the entire human instrument. Taoist inner alchemy refers to the opening of the golden flower, a radiant blossoming in the upper field of the body that signifies the refinement of essence into spirit. These traditions, though culturally distinct, describe the same architecture of awakening. the body as a crucible, the breath as a bellows, and the subtle oils as a fuel for the great transformation. As this energy rises and the body's centres awaken, something extraordinary occurs in the head. Vedic traditions speak of a subtle point known as the Bindu or Bindu Visaga, the point of dripping, located near the crown at the rear of the skull. In yogic and tantric texts, this is the source of Amrita, the immortal nectar, a refined secretion said to descend through the body during advanced states of meditation. Taoist sages describe a similar breakthrough, a sweet dew released from the upper cauldron, signalling the completion of a major stage of inner alchemy. And this is not poetic exaggeration. Practitioners across cultures report a release of the sinuses, an appeasing of pressure within the skull, a literal sweetness in the throat, and a profound shift in energy and consciousness when this centre opens. From this process arise the siddhis of the Brahmins, the extraordinary superpowers that emerge as a byproduct of a transformed nervous system. Taoist adepts speak of transcendental abilities, heightened perception, expanded awareness, and a capacity to act from a state beyond ordinary physical limitation. These are not superpowers in the comic book sense, but subtle, natural expressions of a human being whose inner circuitry has been refined. This entire process, from the awakening of the inner fire to the descent of the Amrita, experience being coded in Western art and myth as well. Michelangelo's creation of Adam can be read not only as a depiction of divine bestowal, but also as a symbolic map of the brain and its latent potential. Many myths, from the Grail legends to alchemical texts, speak of a sacred substance, a hidden oil, a nectar of immortality. These, I believe, are not separate stories, but fragments of a single initiatory tradition, a tradition that leads to human potential, and a tradition that was once passed down from parent to child, and from master to student. At its core, this is a fundamental human capacity, not the property of saints, yogis, sages, or governments, but the natural state of a human being brought into alignment. The body is designed for illumination. The nervous system is built for transcendence. The inner oils, the breath, the subtle currents, all of these are part of a blueprint that has been with us since the very beginning. The fall, in many traditions, is simply the forgetting of this capacity. The redemption is its reawakening. This brings us back to Christ's own words. I am the manna from heaven. Manna, the mysterious substance that nourished the Israelites, has long been interpreted symbolically. From an esoteric and initiatory standpoint, manna is the same as Amrita, the nectar of the gods, the inner dew that descends from the Bindu. It is the Christ oil, the sacred secretion the living bread that feeds the soul. When Christ identifies himself with manna, he is pointing directly to this inner process. The anointing, the illumination, the physiological flowering of the divine within the human body. And so we see that the path of Christification is not a belief system, but a practice, a way of life that refines the body, clarifies the mind, and awakens the spirit. It is the same path described by yogis, Taoists, alchemists, and mystics across the world. It is the path of remembering what we are capable of and reclaiming the inner tools that have always been ours. The anointing is within us. The oil is within us. The manna is within us. And the invitation remains to do as he did, and, as he said, even more.